Welcome back to Camus Classics. Today we're going to talk about car show etiquette. It's a new year. It's something I think that should be covered every year. Just a good reminder. So the first part for everyone appreciates different things. If a vehicle at a show is not what you like to look at, just walk past it. Just move on. You don't need to make any comments. You don't need to say, why is this here? You never know why it's here. It could be sentimental to somebody. There could be, a reason they brought it. So the people want to show it. So if it's not what you want to look at, go ahead and just walk past it. So for the next part, shouldn't have to be said. If it's not yours, do not touch it without the owner's permission. There's a lot of money, time, effort, and all those things into these cars. If you have a specific question, go ahead and ask. Most car owners are more than willing to show you stuff that's not really out for the public on display. And if you're taking photos of the car, if you're doing things of that nature, and you want a shot, go ahead and ask. Again, the worst they can say is no. So, and most owners are going to be willing. Unless there's a lot of effort involved. For example, if the car is a convertible, the top's down, and you want to see it with the top up, they may not do that. But if the car is being shown with the hood down or the hood up, and you want to see it the opposite, most of them will do that. Show you the engine compartment. It may not be clean, or for whatever reason they're not wanting to show it to the public, but they're usually more than willing to show it to you. Talking about filming and photography of the cars, take as many pictures as you want, unless it's specifically stated that you do not. There are a few shows where they hire commercial photographers to come in and do those. There you can't, but for your normal shows, go right ahead. The one thing I will say on that, though, is drones. Please do not bring your drones to a car show. The only ones that, in my opinion, are acceptable are ones flown by commercial drone pilots that have the insurance, that have been hired by the promoter or the venue to get those aerial shots. The reason is they're going to have insurance. The next thing is for attendees, those that are coming to look through the show, but it really applies to everyone, is be aware of your surroundings. You or your group are not the only people at the show. It's perfectly fine to be discussing a car, to be able to reminisce about when you had one like that, or whatever to that matter, but please be aware of those around you. People taking photos of the cars, try and get out of their way. And those taking photos of cars, please do it with a sense of hurry. You don't need to take 5-10 minutes to professionally set up the shot, get it just right, get the angle, get all that. Take your picture, move on. But for those around the cars, be mindful. If somebody's trying to take a picture, especially somebody that has the more commercial style cameras, try and be courteous and stay out of their shot. In a lot of cases, those are somebody that the promoter or event's hired to come in. Could be a news organization, could be a magazine, could be anything, including what you would kind of consider an amateur professional, that is someone that has the professional equipment but is an amateur, and they just are learning their camera and really want to take a good shot of a car. But please stay out of their, move out of their way. But they also need to be courteous to you and get their shot and move on, so you can look at the car. The other thing is if you're walking along through there and you run into somebody please, if you're going to visit with them, please move to the side. Most of these shows are set up with a flow of traffic so that people an aisle away or something, so that people kind of just move through, kind of in a flow. And what I've typically noticed is when you have two people that stop and visit, then their group, each of them's groups kind of meet up, and all of a sudden you've got 10, 15 people standing in the middle of the flow of traffic. People can't get around them. They're having to go out and around each car to get past them. Just be mindful that there are others there besides you. If you want to have those conversations, great. But please move off to the side so that that can take place and not disrupt the flow of traffic. My last thing for attendees, again, also applies to everyone. It is a controversial topic, so I'm going to give my opinion. Please leave your pets at home unless the show is specifically for them. Here in Utah, the Humane Society, a few of the different nonprofits that are geared towards pets, they encourage you to bring your pets, and that's great. The participants in the show know that's the case, and they can decide if they want to bring their car there or not. The pets typically don't have a good time. They're getting out for a little walk, but they should be securely tightened on a leash. When I say pets, I have seen several cats, dogs, snakes, rats, but for the most part, it's usually dogs. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards on the leash and stuff like that. But as a participant, I cringe when somebody with a dog gets really close to my vehicle, especially if they're on not a really short leash. Because if that dog jumps up on the side of my car and scratches its claws down the side of it, it's going to be expensive to get that paint fixed. What you probably don't know, it's very not really uncommon for a paint job to be $10,000 plus on these cars, which, $10,000 is a lot of money, and that's towards the lower end of a really nice paint job. Sky's the limit, depending on what they want to do on it. But that dog, say it jumps up, puts scratches down the doors, you're looking at least $2,000 to have that paint touched up. One, you're not going to your standard paint place because they're not going to be able to mix it to match. They can get close and blend and things like that. But you're going to be taking it to some place that knows what they're doing, knows how to blend paint, and that's not cheap. And the other thing is, some of these paint jobs, there's only one option, and that's repaint the entire car. Going with the base of $10,000, and if it's these type of paints, you're looking at a lot more money than that. What was that? Oh, so Slothy says, feel free to bring your two-legged pets. They're your responsibility. Make sure to keep them from drooling and touching the cars. Now I want to talk about the kids. That's for your significant others, the drooling and touching. Kids, make sure that you're watching them. Again, do not touch the cars. And this includes anything on or in the car. So when I go to a show, I have Slothy sitting in the driver's seat. Kids really do like to come up and see him. And, if you get a kid that's been playing outside, eating recently and stuff, it's just the nature of kids. They get dirty, they get sticky. Well, if I go like this and touch Slothy's fur as a kid and got sticky, now it's all over in his fur and we got to clean that out and it's a mess. Same thing if they touch the side of the car. It takes me, when I prepare my car for a show, between 2 and 4 hours. That's washing, waxing, cleaning the interior, wiping down dust and stuff underneath the hood. Things of that nature, just to get it ready to show. When I go all out, cleaning the rims, tires, all of that, I've been up to 8 hours. So if all of a sudden, come by, we touch everything, and that's basically now wasted all of my time of cleaning it, because now I've got handprints nailed down the side of it. And understand, I take rags with me so I can clean that off, but it's when the parents aren't even where the kids are and stuff like that, it does get to me a little bit. Another example is I have a scale model of my car that I sit on the radiator. I've been showing my car now for about 9 years, roughly 5 shows a year, so in 45 shows. Last year was the first show that that car came up missing. Um, the issue was we had some parents and they was over visiting with some of their friends a couple aisles over. Kids were walking around unattended. One of the kids stole it. And I don't think it was with any malicious intent. I don't believe that at all. I believe the kid's seen it, and it does match very well to my car. Took it to show his parents. That was 2 aisles away, visiting with their friends. Didn't know where their kids was. The kid shows the car to their parents. Parents, my dad saw the kids showing it to their parents. He didn't see the kids take it, or he would have got after him at that point a little bit. But showed the parents. Of course, the parents, where did that come from? And the kid points it out. They missed a great opportunity to show the child a good lesson by having them bring back and explaining that they had taken it. That would have been a great thing to do. Wouldn't have been mad. We wouldn't have yelled at the kid. But instead, parents basically rushed over, threw the car on the car, and walked off. Didn't have a clue where it went or anything like that. So we had to go move it back where it was, which was fine. We were just glad to get it back. But the other thing is, be mindful of where you are with the car, especially behind you. Belt buckles, pants with the bling on them, zippers, etc. They can really do a number on a paint job if you rub up against the car. And if you're looking at a car in front of you, you're not typically paying attention to what's behind you. So do pay attention to what's behind you. Okay, so this next part for promoters, make sure your participants are appreciated and needs are taken care of. Think about what your needs would be if you were a participant in your show for the length of time of your show. Appreciation, it can be as simple as walking around and personally thanking the participants that come to your show. When that happens to me, I appreciate it. A lot of shows I go to, they get on the PA and, well, we'd like to thank all the car show owners for coming. We really appreciate it. To me, that's just lip service. It's just saying it. They probably mean it, but it's not personalized, and it doesn't take but 20-30 minutes to walk through a show and thank the driver, the people that came. The other thing is, if you're in a location that's not user-friendly, so a lot of our shows here are in parks. They're wide open. Things like the restrooms, food areas, they're easy to see. But we do have shows in parking lots, in retail areas. If those aren't what you would say user-friendly, when the cars come to register, either have a map. I've seen that. Maps are great, pointing out where things are. Or say, hey, the restrooms are over here. Go in that store. Go to the left. We're going to have food trucks. They're going to be over here. Things of that nature. And, if you have a show that's 8 to 3, 9 to 3, you better make sure you should have something there, whether it's a food truck or some sort of concession stand. If there's something, in the park, if you're in a parking lot and there's a restaurant there, that's perfectly fine. You should have something there. I have had promoters feed the participants. That's also great. That's another way to show appreciation. It's not required. I'm not begging for that. It's just, that was one of the ways they showed us appreciation. The one thing you do want to do, though, is if you have a venue where the registration booth isn't right inside as you enter the venue or event space, have somebody where you're entering say, over there is the registration table. And then after registrations are through, make sure somebody that has knowledge about the event, the venue, is at that registration table at all times. Participants know where that is. So they're now going to come back to there with any questions they have. If you have a raffle, the next thing, if you have a raffle, spread it out throughout the show. Have a schedule and follow that schedule. So that by that I mean drawings every hour, drawings every half hour, whatever it is. Just make sure you follow that. Divide the prizes up so you don't end up at the end of the show having to give away so many prizes that you're now cutting into the wrap-up portion of your show. If you have awards, if you have other things that you're going to do, and then make sure whatever time you have, you're ending the show at that time or before. If you have awards, be as fair as possible to all participants. I've not seen a perfect way yet to give out awards, but I have seen a few ways not to do it. First, any judge needs to be as impartial as possible, including having what I'll call a reverse bias. So several of the shows I've been to, you see this local thing where a local person wins the show, wins all the awards are given to local people, and they may not always be the what you would think should get an award. May not even be yourself. You may think, hey, there's this car over there that, if I had to pick a best of show, that's the best of show over there, and it doesn't even win an award. And Jim's truck over here that it's completely rusted out. They just pulled it in out of the farm, and it's winning a best of award. If you had a farm truck category and it wins, perfectly great. But when you're doing awards for nice vehicles, probably shouldn't win. And people see that. So bias towards local people, bias towards particular vehicles, they're going to have that. Judges typically, unless you go to a concourse or Bloomington like Gold, like for the Corvettes, those shows are going to have professional judges. And as Dave Kindig said, I'm going to quote him here, they're not looking for what's right, they're looking for what's wrong. When you're attending an event like that, that is what they're looking for. It's the car that's the least wrong that is going to win. These other shows, you have imperfect people picking, and a lot of times, there may be a sentimental reason or other reason that they like a particular vehicle. They're really picking what they like, not necessarily the best, but they should be impartial. If they're looking at 2 or 3 vehicles, well, I'm going to give it to that guy because he's my local friend, or I'm going to give it to my friend, or whatever, anything like that. The reverse bias, we'll go over that, is the opposite of that. Is we won't give an award to a local because we don't want to be perceived as being biased, so we're going to be reverse bias against those that we're trying to be a bias against. So in other words, I'm here in Camas. If I go to a show in Camas and I win an award from a show in Camas, is people saying I won that award because I'm from Camas. And so you have this group. We had a show here in Oakley that from more than one individual I heard, a local person cannot win an award at that show. I've never heard that personally myself, and I can say I've won a couple of awards. I did win a couple of awards at that show. So whether it's true or not, I would say it's not, because I did win some awards there. But there was the perception of a reverse bias that, locals can't win this show, because if we give a local person an award, we're showing bias towards the local people, and we don't want to do that, so we're not going to do that. Okay. The second is any judge that is judging needs to look at all vehicles before making a decision. I went to a show, the judges went down the main aisle, there was about 5-6 aisles. They went down the main aisle, just picked their car out of that aisle, didn't even look at the others. So 1 in 6, 5/6 of the cars didn't even get judged. So that can be an issue. Third, and I had another one, and they didn't do it. I don't think they did it maliciously. We went to a show, and all of the winners came from one little area that was right by the registration booth. What I believe happened is they forgot they had to judge the cars. They did have some categories, but it just so happened that they had enough cars in the right area right around there that they were able to give all the awards out, and they all went to that one little area. They didn't go look at all the cars. To me, that was an oversight. They just forgot they had to do that. Again, though, if you're having a car show, that probably shouldn't be an oversight. There's things you can overlook, but a lot of people do go to shows specifically for awards. Not me, but I do know several that do. And that doesn't look good. So third, judges need to be knowledgeable if the awards are specific, or if there's classes. For example, I went to a show, and there was a 69 Camaro and a 69 Chrysler product. I don't know if it was Plymouth, Dodge, Mopar. They were two friends. They didn't want to compete against each other. Both of them were full custom cars. But again, the promoter said, choose your category. They didn't want to compete against each other, so the one said, I'm going to go in 69 custom, or 60s custom. The other says, oh, okay, I'll go in 60s stock. Well, the judges should not have judged the car 60s stock. There was nothing stock about it. And they said, right in their little rules, if the car is not stock, with less than 3 changes, now stock appearing is one thing, and that's fine. You know, you're not bringing a build sheet of what the car was to prove that you're only within 3 changes of stock. So stock appearing is one thing, full custom completely other. Okay, so the next thing is participants. If you're participating in a show, then plan to be there for the entire show. It's understandable if emergencies happen, and that's not what I'm talking about. If an emergency happens, go. That's where you should be. But for example, this year I went to a show. The show was 9 to 3. The car shows up at about 10:30. They're not allowed to. All the good parking by the front's taken. A lot of it around the outside's been taken. They're kind of being put in a spot to where if they need to get out, they can't get out, but they could. It's just not going to be easy. So we got there. Like I said, the show is about from 9 to, we'll say 3. We got there around 7:30, 8 o'clock. Entered the show then. There was a guy, he had his vehicle there. He was saving a spot for his friend that was supposed to be coming real shortly, and then there was a spot where we parked, and then some spots beside me. Well, as the show people filter in, very nice 67 Chevelle parked right next to me. Left plenty of room. At that point, we weren't needing to compact together. There's still plenty of spots left for the show. Left plenty of room between us. Everything was great. This guy shows up at about 10:30, and he has to park over in the back, and difficult to get out and whatnot. I happens to be friends with the guy parked to the right of me that was saving a spot. Well, he was saving a spot for his friend. He wasn't saving it for that guy. They come to me and, would you mind sliding your car over a little? I can slide mine a little bit the other way, and then we can get his car in here too, and we can all be together. And so I go slide my car over a little bit. The guy, and he never moved his. Asked if I got it moved over a couple feet. Could you move it just a little bit more? I moved it over a little bit more. Now there's, barely a one-person walkway between me and the Chevelle, which I don't like. But he comes and parks his car there. From the minute he got out of that car, I think it was his dad with him, he started in, I'm ready to go whenever you are. I'm ready to go whenever you are. He's only been to the show for a half hour, if that. I'm ready to go whenever you are. They ended up leaving about 11:30, so they was only there an hour. Had me move my car into a place I wasn't happy with, who was there long before the show was started. And then proceeded, in that time, about, like I said, he left between 11:30 and 12 o'clock. About 5-10 minutes before that, the guy's friend comes, so he was a good 2.5 hours late to the show. As soon as that guy left, I was getting ready to move my car back away from the Chevelle, because he wasn't happy with, he couldn't move anymore the other way, and he didn't really, he as well as me didn't really like our cars being that close together, because there was a little bit of a flow right through there, from people coming from another aisle, and so it was kind of almost a major walkway through, and it was pretty tight for having that, so we kind of wanted to spread them out. Well, he immediately goes and moves his chair into that spot. Oh, I have another friend coming. Show ends at 3. The friend shows up at 2:30. So, I was there on time, made the effort to be there. We had the car that showed up, and from the second they got there, they were ready to go. So why they didn't just park out in the parking lot, don't know. They could have just parked out in the parking lot, walked through the cars, and left. Would have been fine. The car that come at 2.5 hours late, I know they had something else they had to be at, because the guy told us about that, but still, they missed half the show. At that point, was it really as important for them to be at the show or this other event? And then the guy that showed up, they were calling, ready to hand out the awards when the guy shows up. So, did he need to come and park in there? No. The show was basically already over by the time he got there, so he could have just parked out in the parking lot if he wanted to come look at the cars, or if he wanted to come visit his buddies. Either way. So, my recommendation, show starts at 10, they open at 8. Don't come at 11 and expect the best spot. Get there early. Be mindful of other participants. So, if you're attending a show as friends, car club, arrive together is the best, and then you can park together. Reserving it, to me, it's a bad practice. I've done it myself, but it is a bad practice. To me, your car in the spot is what reserves your spot, but I can understand it. And again, I've done it. One thing that I have seen is if you are reserving spots, be mindful of that. Reserve the spot only up to 30 minutes before the show, and then let somebody that's there have the spot. Don't reserve a spot for someone that may come. If you don't have a definite "I'm on my way" or "I'll be there" or whatever from a friend, don't reserve their spot. For example, here's some things I've seen happen. I've seen a participant that's there with their car leave a show because they had nowhere to park. Now, throughout the area, there were several reserve spots, and at the end of the show, several of those reserve spots were still open. They finally went and moved their stuff because the person wasn't coming, but a vehicle left that could have been in the show because they had nowhere to park. And there were spots that were available because the people didn't show up. And then the other thing is, I was at a different show and they reserved a big area for a big car club. The car club reserved it. Well, they laid out tape that was nailed into the ground, so you had to be very careful you didn't run over it with your tire. so you didn't end up with a nail in your tire. Well, the way they taped it off made it almost impossible to get into the show, because the entrance they taped off to the entrance, so you had to kind of pull in and then back and forth, back and forth, back and forth till you could get around their marked off spot. That shouldn't have been happening, but it did. But here's one thing that happened with that. This show was, again, 9 to 3. At noon, there were some cars that showed up. Again, it was on them. They could have been there earlier. I mean, the show started at 9. They could have been there earlier. Then they would have maybe had a spot. So yeah, I can see that side of it. But at noon, so 3 hours after the show started, this car club, no, you still can't park there. We still have friends that might be coming. Well, might be coming and are coming are two different things. One thing though, if somebody does have a spot reserved, honor that to an extent. Like I said, halfway into the show, don't care, move their stuff. But we did have a case. I went to a show. Guy had went up. His family was coming. They had 5 vehicles, and he laid out what spots he needed to leave enough gap around their cars. Tighter gap than normally people would have, but he left a sufficient gap. He shows up. Another guy shows up. He didn't inform his friend he was coming. Wants to park next to his friend. His friend has another spot reserved, and there's room in there for about 2.5 cars, if they get tight. So he goes and moves the other guy's stuff, half a car, so that he can fit his car in there, and they're gonna, kind of stay tight. There's a building on one end, so it was a hard stop, and the corner of a fence on another one, so it was a hard stop. So they couldn't, they couldn't ask anybody else to move. It was a defined area. Guy shows up, come about 20 minutes after they move their stuff, but still a full hour before the show started. Of course, he gets out of his vehicle and starts laying into him. Why did you move my stuff? Because it happened that there was a break in the fence where he had put his stuff, and this guy's across that, and his reserved chairs and stuff have been moved, and so he knows his stuff's been moved. Starts yelling at the guy. That guy's yelling at him. Pretty entertaining watching from the sidelines. Not so entertaining for them, I'm sure. So they try and fit in there, and they can only get 4 of their vehicles in there. They can't get the 5th in there. There's just not enough room, unless they're parking them close enough that they're going to struggle to even get out of the car, and they shouldn't have to do that because they had saved these spots, and they were there in early enough time to do so. Eventually, the 2 cars moved, so they'd have room for their 3rd friend. And what should have happened, the guy didn't inform his friend. He didn't reserve him a spot. He should have just parked somewhere else. That's all there is to it. Or waited until those guys come, and if there was room in there, then get in there. But if not, you should just park somewhere else. One thing, if you do have a large car club, reach out to the promoter. Some of them will reserve you off a spot. If they do that, though, don't use that as an excuse or an opportunity to say, well, our spot's reserved. We'll just show up 5 minutes before the show starts, and we're all good. We're set. Show up early still. Help that promoter out. You can lose the goodwill of the promoter really quick if he's having to fight people from parking in your spot for your club that's basically just wants to show up on time and have their preferential treatment. Show up early, and the thing is, if you do that with a promoter, there's a good chance they won't help out somebody else in the future, and they especially aren't going to help out your club anymore. If there are awards, be fine without winning one. Especially true if the judges aren't professional, as I said before, not concourse, not Bloomington Gold certified, things like that. But I'm not saying you have to ignore it. I'm going to give you how I handle it. You can do what you want. As I walk through the show, I tend to look at the cars, especially those in my class, which, if the awards are just general awards, it's everyone. Kind of compare mine, see how I feel. I personally don't care if I lose to a vehicle that's better than mine or that is the same as mine, same level. You know, that's perfectly fine. You have to know who's judging. These guys are typically not paid. They're just choosing something that stands out to them. So they may be looking at, don't take it as a negative against your vehicle that they didn't choose your vehicle. There's generally only so many awards to give out, and unless it's, based off of some set of criteria, then they're going to choose something that stands out to them, something that's sentimental to them, something that is their style, something of that nature. However, if you see that there's blatant favoritism, buddies, these two guys are buddies and his car wins and it's really not anything special, just giving my award to my buddy. Hey, this guy, I'm a promoter and this guy comes to my show. Do a show every week or a couple shows, cruise nights, and this guy's always supporting me, so I'm going to give him an award. That type of thing. Localism, reverse localism, and other things like that. I just choose not to support this show unless the promoter's done enough for me that I feel I got my value out of going to it. For example, I went to a show, one of the tool companies was putting on a customer appreciation show, but it also happened to be a fundraiser for the police department. So I went to that. I do support the police department, and I go to that show, and it seemed like all of the awards went to their customers. In other words, they're going to these different customers, and it seemed like all of the awards went to a customer. But on the flip side, they had really good raffle prizes. Promoter went around, welcomed us, thanked us for coming. Most of the tool truck guys come around and thanked us for coming. They fed us lunch. They did enough that I would attend that show again. Even if I thought there was no chance I could win an award, I'd go to that show again just because felt appreciated and the promoter did a really good job of it. But again, this guy spent about a $10,000 toolbox from me and brings a car to a car show. Yeah, I may throw an award his way. That's just what it kind of seemed like. May not have been the case, but that's what it seemed like to me. If it's just a feeling that you should have won, and you didn't, suck it up. I mean, the only thing that you do not want to do is go to complaining to the judges, to the promoter, to anybody in charge at the thing. All you're going to do is cause hard feelings, possibly get you invited not to come to their shows. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a plastic trophy, it's a wood plaque. One show I go to gives out sandblasted rocks. Honestly, what do you do with them? You take them home, you may show them off for a month or two, and then they're just dust collectors. You just move them. So what are you really out? As you enter or exit the show, be mindful of where you're at. Typically, you're on public property, and no one cares for your showing off. Driving stupid only ruins it for everyone. The only time someone's going to care about your showing off is when you make it entertaining and you total your vehicle around a light pole or a fence or run into somebody else's car. That you make it entertaining for them. Otherwise, they don't care about your open exhaust. They don't care about burnouts. They don't care about revving your engine, dumping the clutch, all that stuff. They don't care. You don't need to do it, and please don't do it. That can kill the will of the venue and event space really quickly. Clean up after yourself. Shouldn't have to be said. Just don't leave your garbage for someone to clean up. If there's not a trash facilities there, take it with you home, take it home, put it in your garbage. You brought your vehicle to be shown. Be respectful to the other attendees. Remember, a lot of them don't have the same experience you are. So if they needed to be reminded to be careful around your car, do it in a respectful manner. Don't just go off yelling at them. They're most likely not doing what they're doing purposefully to offend you. They just don't know better. They don't have the same care about your car as you do. They're there to look at cars and move on. Be willing to talk about your vehicle. Somebody comes up and asks you a question, asks you, has a special request, try and do that the best you can. Again, some of those can be difficult. You know, you've got a manual convertible top and it takes you 15-20 minutes to put that up, and somebody wants it just for a quick picture. Fine, tell them, sorry, I don't want to do that. But if somebody has, you know, if you're showing your car with the hood up and they want you to put the hood down for a picture, it takes minutes, seconds. Do it. Let them take their picture, put it back. It's not that big of a deal. Be respectful as you can. The final thing to bring up, shade canopies. Yes or no? I personally prefer to have my shade canopy. Very light skinned, I burn very easily. That being said, they do have their time and place. If space is limited, you don't have the room to put it up, don't put it up. If you don't have a way to secure it, absolutely do not use it. And I do not really like the pins that they send in them. Those don't typically hold them in the ground very well. They make weights that wrap on the legs. The ones I have look like dumbbells, slide over it. Those do a much better job. In other words, that little wire pushed into the ground, which in some ground you can't push it down all the way, so it's not even in all the way anyway. They just don't hold that well. I have 20 pounds on mine. They make some that are heavier. If you have that, then you can put it up on asphalt if you need to. But do be very mindful of having a way to secure it, having the space to put it up, and be very mindful of weather changes. So the wind can kick up at any time. Well, I do want to go back real quick to having the space. I've seen this several times at shows where, you know, somebody shows up late because of the way they have to park. It's not exactly like everyone else, but we whip out the shade canopy and all of a sudden, well, we want our shade canopy and we're going to take up 3/4 of the walkway. That's not acceptable either. If you want shade canopies, get there early. Get in a spot where you can have them. It's not really right to block off the flow of traffic so you can have a shade canopy because you showed up late. Does take very little wind to actually pick one of those up and send it flying. And odds are when it goes flying, it's going to damage somebody else's car, not yours. So again, shade canopies, I like them as long as there's space, they're well secured, and it's not blocking any walkways or anything like that. We'd love to have you send us any comments, things we missed, so that others can see that, and like, share, and subscribe.